Zoe's going to join us in a minute, but in the meantime, I will introduce Annabel Scholey,
Oliver Cotton,
Owen Teale. I didn't have it, but I was the Owen, the Oliver, and Sian Thomas.
Hello.
So, yes.
Going to get on here.
Well, I might grab a chair, actually, on the end.
Zoe coming?
I'm tempted to ask my first question, would it all be easier if we were French? But I won't.
If we were French.
My first question. Sorry,
I'm missing that. Why would French?
Would what be easier if we were French?
The play.
To what extent is this a British attitude towards towards infidelity? Actually, I will ask you. Go on.
I don't know very much.
I think there's a cliche, isn't there, that in France they'd say, "What is all the fuss about?" About the mistress. That it's more accepted, but I've always mistrusted that. I must say, I've never lived in France. I've worked there, but I
think it is very British. This play, it feels that to me. I may be wrong, but that's my perception. That if we were French, it would be a different kind of play, and written in a different way.
There is a sort of inspection, I guess, which is very British, of pulling apart the difference between love and sex and trying to analyse it and define it in this play that you might not find in France. As I say, you would accept in the way that they still, as far as I know, still have crime passionnel, don't they, in France? That it's
Everywhere.
it means that you can if a crime is born out of extreme passion,
You're allowed off.
then it's mitigated. It's mitigating what.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent, if you kill somebody or it lessens the sentence. I don't know, but they do take it into account, don't they?
A kind of follow-on question from that is, to what extent is it a period piece? Because it premiered in 1981, when it could be argued attitudes weren't hugely different, but certainly issues it touches on, such as marriage counselling, for example, in the second act, and that idea of getting outside help being quite a shameful thing. That struck me as something that possibly now we're much more relaxed about. I mean, to what extent do you think it is very much of its time?
We tried to avoid that, didn't we?
I think the central problem, the central issue remains the same. I mean, if the play had been set in 1900, it would be. I mean, we haven't changed the. We deliberately haven't changed the phone boxes, and it's left in its period. But the central issue, the devastation of breakup of a marriage and the breakup and what can happen, I think is universal, and it remains the centre of it. I don't think it matters whether there are mobile phones or whether there is more acceptance of. We are more relaxed about it, but people are still devastated now. I mean, that's what I feel. I think it's a central. The stuff around the edge is kind of for me.
But I think at the central heart of it, there's something that is quite period, in that it doesn't really deal with ill health. It's pre-AIDS.
That's true.
It has an innocence and a sort of naivety that at times is maddening about the characters, especially my character and Oliver, the pursuance of sex, at the cost of everything else, is particular to, I think, to a certain age man at a certain point. Because when he refers to the fact that when he was young, cake was rationed and that girls' behaviour was criminal, there was so little action, I think he's talking about the 1950s. And
well, Peter Nichols wrote Kate was born in 1927 or something like that, fought in the war and all that stuff, and so came from a period of extreme sort of deprivation.
I mean, even in little tiny details, like from Agnes's point of view, when she says you'll create your own little Munich. People don't talk about Munich in the same way now.
That's right.
Munich,
that's
yes.
another
Absolutely.
period thing that in the
ladies and gentlemen, introducing the one and only. What an outcome.
Sorry, I'm always late.
Always late.
True.
So, a quick recap.
Sorry. No, carry on.
We're just discussing to what extent it's a period play, to what extent attitudes have maybe changed since the time it premiered, or if at all, in fact.
Are you asking or have you started?
We've started. I was just saying that I'll finish what I was saying and maybe you'll glean what I'm up to. is that despite that, despite the fact that it refers to a time, as I say, of like no sex around in the 1950s, whatever, and then he's hitting 50 at 1980, I think that I hope that we don't shy away too much from it as a period piece, because what comes out of it is the expression of the two genders is alive and absolutely vital now, and would transcend time, is essential, that it exposes that. And it's like doing an Ibsen play or something like that, and people say we're going to update it. It's quite difficult. Why, in a way? Why? Because the effect it has on people, I hope, is...
The Doll's House is as shocking now, in a way, as it was then, although it's not, it is different, but it's still...
It's an interesting comparison there. The structure of the characters is obviously fairly unique to the play. I saw Eugene O'Neill's Strange Interlude at the National recently, where the characters speak their thoughts through asides. But in this, obviously, in terms of the central pairing, they have an alter ego. How long did that take to sort of get used to, get the rhythm?
We're still working on it. I need to lie down.
It was a nightmare. Because no character really answers anything. So that's the problem. So when somebody asks a question, you have to wait.
There's a delay.
It's a delay. So you have to constantly not only know your own lines, but somebody else's lines, but carry on thinking what you want out of the scene, and so therefore it trips you up. So we were really struggling when we rehearsals, spent most of the time trying to get the lines right.
Apart from Annabel, there's about 10 brain cells between them. And so it's kind of like, you're just the age. I mean, it's not easy,
No.
I don't have an inner voice, to be fair, as well.
That's true.
No, you don't have an inner voice.
But you're right.
It's not easy, yes. It was a struggle, I have to say, but once we got it, it plays beautifully, it plays brilliantly, and it's a joy to do, I think, don't you?
Yeah,
Now it's almost like music at times.
It is
There's
music.
kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're within it,
It is a sextet, literally.
Put that on the posters. I know Samantha can't be with us, but I remember interviewing her a few weeks ago about it, and she said exactly that it's like playing a piece of music, and the rhythm is so important. And because you just fill us in on the background of the production, because it did have a tryout regionally before it came to the West End. Did that help you sort of build up?
We needed it really badly, actually, because of that very reason.
Yeah, we opened in Richmond.
Had to focus on the lines and the...
Yes, we did Tech in Richmond, and we opened it there, and that sort of gave us the kind of understanding of the rhythm of the play, and then we moved it to Brighton, and that's...
We did a lot of good things
Yes,
in Brighton.
we did.
It sort of found itself in Brighton.
And then David Laveau changed a lot of the music cues and the lighting cues and fine-tuned it and worked on it. So we needed that time in order to really pull it all together and to what it is now. So he kept changing things, which was wonderful in a way. It was really good.
Yeah, he's gone away now.
Yes, exactly.
But I think that although there's 6 characters, obviously the 7th one is you guys, whoever you are, and that's what we had to learn as well.
Yeah.
Was how you would respond, and because of the elements of Nichols' writing, there's a real honesty about sort of bawdy humour that he plays with, and then very painful, dark flip side to that. But the bawdy humour can elicit enormous laughs at times, and trying to time it.
But it has to be said that a lot of people don't like the play. And that's quite reasonable. I mean, there's a lot of people who come around and say, I hate this play. I think it's...
But it's dated.
It's dated, and I find it offensive to women, and I find it this, and I find it that. And they're entitled to think that. But I mean, I think there is in the centre of the play something rather... the thing that attracts me to the play is that its centre is very serious. Even if I don't know when he wrote it, I don't know how much that was in his head. But it does reverberate.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a great style of his. I mean, that's what goes through a lot of most of his stuff, which is like Day and the Death of Joe Egg and Privates and Parade. He starts with this kind of
Vaudeville.
slightly vaudeville, musical, and then he
And
just...
then the dark creeps
and then
in,
it
doesn't
starts, just goes...
Twists.
When we had the first read-through, he was there and he said... He interrupted the read-through of our first scene, and he said, "And now it all starts." And so he's got a rhythm, which is wonderfully clever, and he's very much his own. It's a very good, interesting style.
Yes, it is. It's completely unique to him. And to use humour. It's so daring. And then to kind of set up a graph of starting there and ending there in the same evening. And the kind of waves of it is extraordinary, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. This was the first time I saw it tonight, and I really did not see that conclusion coming. It really does come, not completely out of the blue, but it really is a much, much darker finish to it all. Final question for me before I hand it over to the floor, which is a kind of a general one, quite a big one really, which is sort of, where does the fault lie? If that's what you can call it, where does is it Kate? Is she a sort of femme fatale who comes in and just, gets it? Is it the weakness of your character, or?
I don't think there is. I mean,
I don't think it's that black and white.
I don't think it's that black and white. I don't think it's a fault. I think what he's talking about is sexual obsession. One of the things he's talking about, and however much you can judge that or wag your finger or say you should, you shouldn't, you should. And I think he's talking about a man who says he's not in love, but is in love, for whatever that word means. Last words of the player, love's a terrible thing, it means whatever you want it to. And this is a man who can't, the last image of the player is a man on his knees in front of the woman, he can't let her go. And I think that's, fault is exactly what I don't think there is. I mean, you can wag your finger, you can say people are hurt, but he is obsessed.
It's not, passion is not is not exclusive to the young. And that's what
That's right.
That's what the key of it is. And also somebody who says that I'm an unemotional man, and the pact that they have, in which she says, she says to Agnes, Eleanor says to Agnes, we're not romantic. And obviously, one of them is. Well, they both are, but
they've missed
They
each
deny
other.
they missed each other. But
I think that's what's interesting. They kind of deny it as something
yes,
bad.
yeah. I think it's what's wonderful about the play is that it kicks up everything that either we've gone through, somebody's gone through, been there, done that, or we know about it, and it is
Heard
happened,
about it.
or just been there, and it is a confrontation. It's a great speech that Oliver has at the end of the play. We're 25 years of wives and children. We're running down like a. So it's terribly honest.
This is probably my last chance.
Yes. But it's okay for
And that's
them.
his inner voice speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's his... but that's what he feels. It's probably my last chance. So where's the harm? I mean, why can't you just let me do it? Just let me do it. Well, here. So
let me pass this over to you guys. If anybody has something they'd like to ask, please do raise your hand. Yeah.
More a comment than a question, listening to what you're talking about. You talked about the period. I suggest it's not only period, but it's actually timeless.
Yes.
And the subtlety of this particular play is it's got those timelessness, it's got social comment, and it's got this darkness, and it's got this humour, and it's quite an interesting combination to have pulled the whole lot together.
Yeah.
And to hear Oliver say, people don't like it, where do they come from?
Well, there are people.
Thank you.
There are people.
Yeah, there are people who don't like the play.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's timeless because it's about the human condition.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's why we're saying about...
I think people feel uncomfortable when they say they don't
Yeah.
like it. The people that I've spoken to who say they don't like it, they then tell me passionately about a story that's happened, and I go, okay, it's not you don't like it; it's affected you, which is what all you can ask for.
It's too close to them.
That's what theatre is for. So you kind of think, well,
Okay, you can understand if people don't like the writing or they don't
Yes,
like it.
Yeah.
I think the way David Laveau's handled it is very adult. And I think he felt that he was... When you look at the stage directions that Peter's written, which were written because it was written in the 80s, you think, oh, God, because it had lots of other... It had 6 other people on it who were... The Private View had 6 other people, and then the Nightmare had 6 other people. That became an orgy, and it was just so he's just pared it right down to a completely simple thing. So it's the way you handle the writing, which is quite interesting. How you do that,
And I think it's an uncomfortable watch, for couples. I mean, you're not going to admit this, but I mean, there's certainly something that I've learned. I've certainly had two friends who've been to see it, and their partners, their wives, couldn't make it, and both of them said to me, "Well, I've had such a great evening, but I have to say, had I been with my wife, I don't think I'd have laughed quite so loudly,
or so publicly."
Yeah.
So another question.
Yeah.
Rather superficial question, but was the 1980s production as brilliant as this in terms of...
None of us did any of us see it.
None of us have seen it.
But are the stage directions?
We're too young. We couldn't see it.
Well, the stage director wrote in the script, so I don't know what they did with it.
Well,
They had a lot more people.
I know that it was
Yes.
done at the Aldwych, and there was this circle at the Aldwych. The people who sat behind the circle, they had a set where
the inner voices were on another level.
Oh, really?
So the people
Yeah.
who were behind the circle couldn't see, and shouted out, "We can't see," because it was a ludicrous choice. That's what I
It's
heard.
a whole new interpretation of...
Yes.
Completely
Yes.
different.
And
Yes.
when they
The
did it in
fluidity of this is David Laveau,
Yeah.
hugely.
Yeah, hugely so. I mean, he's just left it as a sort of open space, really, with it. And this set is
And
fantastic.
Hildegard, actually,
And
our
Hildegard.
designer.
Sorry,
This
yes,
this
yes,
set
of
is
course.
just, I think it's fantastic.
is, yeah.
It's
Very
very
beautiful.
clean.
And that moment
beautiful.
where the alter egos sort of swap places, that surely would have been a very different impact if the two characters were kept completely separate.
Yeah.
Difficult to imagine that.
Yes, it's hard to imagine.
But then I
I
met...
suppose it was such a... Yes, go on.
when I met Martin Jarvis, who did it with the
Jerry-
drama... wasn't
Terry
it?
Lungy.
Jimmy
Jerry
Lawrence
Lungy.
and
And he said that they physically moved together as back to back, and they did all sorts of interesting. So each period that it's been done, it's been in a way reinterpreted and reinvented. So
well, we tried a bit of that, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we kind of threw it out. And we
that.
just kind of gave up on it. Yeah.
I think we bored
I'd seen
everybody
that.
senseless. Like an old vaudeville act, just...
Good question. Yes, you, and then we'll go. Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
I have a question for Zoe. Thank you very much, everybody, for a great night. Really enjoyed it. I work with mental health clients as my day job, and I wondered if you've done any particular research to play the part of the women driven to taking their own life.
no, I haven't. I haven't. I'm just trying to think back because I have. No, I not for this particular play, but I have for other things. But it was a conundrum that what takes somebody to that point, and I'm still working on it. But that's a very interesting question that you're asking me because it's very, very big. I'd love to talk to you sometime about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This gentleman here, that one.
Yeah. Go for it.
It seems to me that TV and film has tended towards a certain sort of realism. And when you get devices like splitting characters in two in a play, do you think that TV and film would benefit from more of that sort of theatrical creativity?
They do it, don't they, from time to time? Didn't they? Didn't somebody have a, like in the 1940s? We talked about this one day, and Jimmy Stewart had a.
Oh, Harvey.
He had a Harvey. He had a rabbit that only he could see, and things like. I mean, they.
But the idea of actually having the inner voice.
But for films like Dogville, where you take away the set altogether, and you've just line
Yes.
on stage.
Yeah.
You just don't seem to see that very often.
No.
And it's not just this.
But that
It's
isn't-
also, I went to see Travels with My Aunt recently, and that's got 4 men playing the same character and then other characters, and it just doesn't seem to happen very much in TV and film.
I think it's a very different medium.
Yeah.
They're so different, theatre and film. And I know it's sort of de rigueur now to film, things at the National or on the West End, but I actually don't know if that's always such a good thing, because they are very different, and there's something incredibly theatrical about the device that Peter uses for this, that you'd have to handle it very carefully on film. It could work, but it is a different thing.
But it's a fantastic notion, isn't it? I mean, you could do it in film. You absolutely could do it. I think it would be really exciting. But then, what's wonderful about the theatre is that, in every way, is that it's one group of people together, but then you watch the device happening like that. I don't know. I've gone back on myself, because actually I think it's a very good idea to do it in film.
Well, everybody has an inner voice.
in a way,
Everybody
film
here has
is
got an
much
inner voice
easier.
now, haven't they? Everybody in this audience has got an inner voice now, which is saying what bollocks, what they're talking rubbish, or whatever. Shut up! I want to go home. Or this is interesting. Or why don't they? Whatever. We've all got
They
it.
haven't
Or
answered the
they
question.
haven't answered the question. Or whatever.
Please stop.
Please stop talking. Whatever. I mean, we've all got inner voices all
It's
the time.
when we
which-
call on them. It's
when we
quite
call on them
interesting.
and what they say to us, and they run all the time in our heads. Oh Christ, it's him. He's coming up the road. I've got to avoid. It goes on all the time.
You can see that a lot clearer on film because of close-up. You can see.
Well, you can do it
people's
on
eyes.
voiceover.
In voiceover, you do it in film all the
that's
time.
Yes, of course.
But if you actually have the other person, the other persona
close-up and
there,
voiceover does it for
Yeah.
you in a way.
yes, that's right.
But I find it particularly a wonderful moment every time we do it, that all of it comes on stage, because I've only got 50% of the role to play. Then it's going to be an easier night for me. But no, it's you guys. It's how quickly do you get it? Who he is.
And
You
on
know.
film,
You would get
They would
immediately- come out the
take
cupboard.
much more
yeah.
care, wouldn't they? They would probably be the same person
you
playing.
know immediately.
Yeah.
There's a
But,
gentleman at the back.
It's a shared experience. It's about how quickly you go with it and say, "Who is that man? What's going on?"
Final question, I'm afraid, but yeah, go for it.
There's a comment and a question. The comment says, I see it more as a middle-aged person's need for desire, perhaps anyone's need for desire rather than sex. Sex happens to be the vehicle for it. But when we're developing the characters, because it's very complex, how much of that was through the director saying, this is where I want you to go? How much was given to you as individuals to read the story and develop your own character within it?
Well, we didn't know anything about infidelity, so we needed something to... Sorry,
We
that's flippant.
we went to the
Sorry.
City Lit for lectures.
It
I think it was a
both. It was definitely both.
honing away at it. We just worked at it. I don't remember. He was very good at saying that doesn't work when you do that. David Laveau was very good at saying it's something wrong with that, wasn't he?
Yes.
I mean, and saying that's right. I don't know why it is. That's right, and then we'd work around what seemed to be right, and because a lot of it was very intuitive.
But surely the casting is a huge...
The casting is absolutely...
the executive decision of making that casting of those people.
It's a very delicate subject matter as well, and I think that David made us feel certainly I felt very safe, which was important for me, particularly in this role.
Yeah.
So it felt like you could say anything right from the beginning, and we had a lot of discussion time, and everybody sort of had an input.
I think every time you do a play, you invest a background knowledge of from the text and why people do things, so that it's all in the text of what people say. So as actors, you develop an understanding through your own head and your own imagination of what these characters might be. So you bring with that not only the text, but then you have the third person, which is the other person, which is the director, who also has a view. So you do that kind of work on your own, and you present that in rehearsals, and then you a director will say that's too much, that's too little, or this character. So you do a lot of discussion in rehearsal about what is the motivation, what is the subjective life of a character. So it's all of us who develop that and make it strong. So every actor has their own way of finding a character and finding a thought process which makes that character and understanding.
And on a play like this,
change.
I mean, what choices are relevant? What choices help the story or the presentation of it? If I make this choice, that doesn't help. If I make this choice, that is helpful because of this or that or whatever. You know, and it's and there was a lot of that, I thought, in our rehearsals. A lot of that went on.
I mean, I wasn't there as much as you lot because Agnes is kind of off on her own and she doesn't have to share. But which is quite nice. But what I've found with David, our director, was that he really allowed me to feel like I was a major part of the play, and he allowed me to bring my Agnes in, and I was ready for him to step on it and go, it's a bit much.
You kept saying more.
Well, I kept saying, I can do less. He went, no, I love it. And I wanted to play her really angry and furious rather than sort of just cold and cynical, which it looks like on the page. And he was wonderful. And to me, it was like a little kind of wonderful microcosm, example of how you're allowed off the leash with a good director. And, you know, he's got such taste, he would never let anything get overbalanced, but he allowed me to find my Agnes, and I could have just been told, do that, and shut up and get on with it, and he was glorious.
It's also worth saying that he was very good about the music. This play in the script has a lot of music cues, which are written in about what they are. Handel, Bach, Mozart, etc. Peter Nichols wrote them in. And David discovered that these had actually not been set by Peter Nichols, but had been set by the RSC when it was first done, by the composer, by Guy Wolfenden, I think, who's a wonderful. But so David realized that he could put his own not stamp on it, but he could. So he's used mainly the Mozart Requiem and the St. John's Passion by and the bits of the St. Matthew's. But there are other bits, but it's been a continuum through the thing, and I think that's really powerful. Personally, I think it's really powerful choice.
Very good question to finish on. We must leave it there. If this has whetted your appetite for more discussions about this play, there was a very good panel a few nights ago with a group of journalists discussing the question, is adultery ever justified? And I think you can find that online somewhere, as you will find this discussion online from tomorrow. So do have a listen to both of those. And thank you again, firstly to you guys for staying, and secondly to the cast of Passion Play. Thank you so much.